Howdy folks, monthly update for the month of October. I'm standing here 30th of October, which is a little bit earlier than usual for the monthly updates, but we have got a lot of rugby coming at the start of November, which means it's going to be hard to squeeze in a monthly update with all the previews and reviews and teams of the week and world rankings and all that stuff, which will be heading our way as both hemispheres get into action with some cracking November fixtures. So let's take a chance to take a quick look back at October's games, some stats, some thanks, and a few bits of news, including what's been called Nutgate. Jan-Hendrik Wessels' ban that he's received for the alleged grab of the testicles with Josh Murphy, which has been a bit of a divisive one in itself. John Plumtree has had a bit of news with regards to his job at the Sharks. And then the final spot, the 24th spot at the Rugby World Cup 2027 will be decided in November. We'll have a quick chat about that as well. But ultimately, this is the chance where I get to say a big thank you guys for being here, for subscribing, for liking, for watching the videos and all that jazz. It seems most people still watch on a mobile phone, but a disturbing amount of people watch on a TV. Almost a quarter of people watch on a TV. I can't imagine watching on like a big old TV with just some dude in front of a whiteboard talking rugby, but whatever device you choose to watch on from whatever location, as I said, thank you guys for being here. It certainly means a lot to me, and the banter down in the comments is generally pretty top class. I feel like it's one of the better forums compared to some other places where like Facebook's terrible. But yeah, I love the banter down in the comments. Some stats for the month of October. It obviously wasn't quite as big as September when the Rugby Championship was in full swing and like the All Blacks were getting a record defeat, which was a big bit of news. But we did see the Springboks wrap up the Rugby Championship with their win over the Pumas over at Twickenham, so that was a bit of big news. Club rugby-wise, Munster defeating Leinster away from home in the URC was also a bit of big news. I haven't done anything on the Prem or the top 14 yet, but those competitions are obviously in full swing as well. The NPC ended with Canterbury getting a first title in a wee while over Otago. So there's been kind of plenty of rugby going on in October at that club level, but you feel like November is going to blitz everything out of the water just with the big clashes that we have got on the cards. For you guys, the audience, top 5 geographies. South Africa is number 1, UK 2, Ireland 3, Australia 4, and New Zealand 5. But I like to drill down on some of the places that YouTube calls them cities. Sometimes they're not cities, they're towns or even suburbs, but there's 2 spots which caught my mind or caught my eye. Wilderness in South Africa. There's literally a place called Wilderness. That feels like it could be confusing. I'm going to Wilderness. I'm going to the wilderness. But you're actually going to it looks like a bit of a beach. Is it a beach town over in South Africa on the Eastern Cape? And Wexford in Ireland. Why do I know Wexford? I've never been to Ireland, but as soon as I saw Wexford, it rung a bell. But I don't know why. So there you go. A couple of cities, but welcome wherever you are watching. Also, I need to say a big thanks to the patrons who support the channel every month on Patreon. There's always a link down in the description in the videos to Patreon and to buy me a coffee. Economy in the world is not great, but these people go the extra mile and support the channel on Patreon. If you would be so kind or are able to, link is down there. I'll do a few extra vids and updates there. Obviously, the majority of the content is still here on YouTube, which is the way it'll always be. But yeah, YouTube can be a bit fickle in terms of view counts and payments and whatnot. So if you're able to support, join these lovely folks. I would greatly appreciate it. But ultimately, thank you for being here. Big thanks to Jack and Angus for their continued support on Patreon as well. Now, a few bits of big news. Jan-Hendrik Wessels and Nutgate. I actually watched that game at the time. It was the Bulls up against Connacht over in Galway. And there was an incident, if you didn't see it, where like Josh Murphy ended up hitting Jan-Hendrik Wessels in the face. And you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And he accused Wessels of grabbing him by the balls, essentially. The TMO did have a look at it at the time and was like, look, I can't see anything. Remember, TMO's got a pretty limited window to be able to look at that kind of thing. They saw the punches, so Murphy got himself a red card. Wessels able to continue to play the game. Then they did the whole off-the-field review thing, and it essentially got reversed. So Wessels ends up getting a ban. It was initially 9 weeks, but he's appealed it, and it's come down to 8. And Murphy's red card essentially got rescinded. So that's rubbed some people up the wrong way. for both reasons, because some people are saying there's no direct video evidence which shows the nut grab. It's essentially a he says case, looking at like the angle of his arm and then Murphy's reaction to decide. I guess that's common in like the court of law, where it's like one person's word against another's. In rugby, we usually, with all the TV cameras these days, we usually get definitive evidence of something, but ultimately they've gone with Murphy's word over Wessels's, who denied it, that he grabbed him by the nuts. They said that like there was an unnatural movement of his arm, and then Murphy's reaction and whatnot. So yeah, they took his word for it, and he's got himself a big old ban, which is going to see him miss all of these upcoming November internationals, old Jan-Hendrik Wessels. And as I said, Murphy, despite the fact that he got a red card at the time, gets no ban at all. So that will rub some people up the wrong way. Some people will be pretty happy with that. At the time, my interpretation was he's probably done something, because it didn't seem like a natural reaction for Josh Murphy to just start hammering blows on Wessels. I don't know what I would do if someone grabbed me by the nuts like that, but it probably would be a pretty instinctive reaction as well. But yeah, it is just a very unusual situation that there's just no clear camera evidence of what was going on. But yeah, you can't get away with much these days, and seemingly even less. So we don't need that stuff in the game, whether you believe it or not. As I said, at the time I was kind of inclined to believe something had happened. So yeah, there's no evidence video-wise to show that. It's just one man's word against another's. John Plumtree, he's been struggling a wee bit with the Sharks. If you haven't been following the URC, the Sharks have got a star-studded side full of Springboks, and yet their results have been pretty average. His first season with the Sharks, John Plumtree, was a bit poor. They missed the playoffs by quite some way. And then the second year was better. They made the playoffs, but you feel like the on-the-field product still left a bit to be desired. And now his third season, and I believe it is the third year of his 3-year contract, it's still been pretty poor, despite the roster of talent that he's got available. So it's been decided that he will not coach beyond the season that he is contracted for with this 2025-2026 season. So he's not being sacked, at least yet, although it seems like he'll probably be going to maybe slightly less hands-on stuff. They said Neil Powell, the director of rugby, will be doing more kind of rugby operations stuff. So it's a pretty awkward situation, because once you know the coach is leaving, it's hard for them to have the same impact on the team, I would say, but certainly not the first coach to be in that position. I mean, the All Blacks appointed Razor before Fozzie was even done, and that didn't sit well with Fozzie. But yeah, Plumtree won't be the head coach of the Sharks after the end of the season. And I think it's probably fair enough, because as I said, he's got a pretty talented squad, but they sure have not clicked thus far. And then the final World Cup spot for Australia in a couple of years' time. There's 4 teams going at it. Samoa is probably the favourite. They are certainly the highest ranked of the 4 teams who are in this final qualifying tournament, which will be held in Dubai in the, I think, second week of November. Samoa are ranked 16th in the world, but they are on a bad run. They lost to Tonga. Prior to that, they lost to Scotland, but they lost to Tonga in the Pacific Nations Cup, which essentially saw Tonga qualify. They lost to Fiji. Then they had a chance to qualify. They lost to the USA, and then they had a 2-match series against Chile to qualify. They drew one and lost one. So it's been a pretty terrible run for Samoan rugby, but they will still be the favourites of this tournament. Then they got Belgium, who's ranked a few spots below them in 22nd. They lost to Portugal and Romania earlier in the year, but have had wins over Germany, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. They lost to the US, which Samoa also did, but they did beat Canada, and Canada beat the US. So I wouldn't write off the Belgians, even if it's not a team I'm that familiar with. Namibia, who are usually that African qualifier, missed out to Zimbabwe earlier in the year. So Zimbabwe took the African spot. Namibia is through to this competition on the back of beating the UAE. I feel like Namibia will still be, even though they're a bit of a World Cup regular, I feel like they will be probably third-place favourites. They are like the third-place team in terms of the Rugby World Rankings. And then Brazil, who weren't even supposed to be there because they lost their qualifying matches with the South American qualifiers to Paraguay, but Paraguay ended up pulling themselves out, saying we accidentally fielded an ineligible player. So credit to Paraguay for putting their hand up. That sees Brazil as the 4th qualifier. They are 32nd in the world, so will be the least favourite. Apologies, Brazil. I do not have your magnet made up. I promise if you make the World Cup, I will certainly make up your magnet. But yeah, that is the month that was. Let us know your thoughts. Who would you rather see make the World Cup? I would say it's probably going to be Samoa, but don't write off the other teams. What do you reckon about John Plumtree? Do you think once they appoint someone else, all the problems are fixed? Or do you think the problems, and I suspect this is true, maybe go a little bit deeper than just the coach? And what do you think about Wessels' ban? Do you think they need to have clear-cut video evidence to ban the guy? Or do you think we can take Josh Murphy's word on this one? Thank you so much for being here, for liking, subscribing, keeping the channel alive and a healthy and passionate rugby community. It really means a lot. Take care of yourselves, folks, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.